Welcome to the Richard Stewart Show. My name is Richard Stewart. I'm a former national team player for the Canadian national team who won a silver medal for Canada in the 91 games in Sheffield, England. I also played at St. Joseph's University NCAA Division I in the Atlantic 10 Conference.
Stewart again down the lane, no foul, they let him have it. Richard has 19.
Currently, I own Advanced Basketball Canada, a program that teaches kids how to play basketball from the fundamentals to the more advanced. Two of the notable players that I've trained are Dillon who plays for the Memphis Grizzlies,
and Brooks will go and jam it with the right hand off the setup by Moran.
And Ignas Brazdeikiz,
Brazdeikiz to steal, some contact, and we play on. Brazdeikiz,
who plays for the New York Knicks. I also train ladies, and the ladies that are in university and have played in Europe as well. So I have a lot of ladies who have trained and are playing basketball. Welcome to the Richard Stewart Show. My name is Richard Stewart. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a great guest on our program today. A man that I know from high school days here in Toronto, a great basketball player. Went to Farley Dickinson University, the Knights, and also was in law enforcement, and a man who is a man of the cloth, Bishop Wendell Brereton. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm great this morning. It's a beautiful morning here in Toronto, Canada. The wind, the sunlight, everything is perfect right now. How is it where you're at? You live out in Brampton area, aren't you?
I'm out in Brampton, but unfortunately, the things that I'm seeing on social media, things that are happening in Toronto, things happening in Minneapolis and other places, all I can say is that the world is one big society right now, and it's not good. It's not good. It's sunny outside, but it's not looking good.
No, and it's amazing to me that the times that are moving so fast, time is changing on us right in front of our eyes. One of the things I want to discuss with you as current events is what was expected to happen. As I look, and I'm a person who studies history a bit. I'm a novice at it, but I study history a bit. I've seen conflict around the world for hundreds of years. If you think about the Irish, if you think about Bosnia-Herzegovina, the Croatians, if you think about the Russian Revolution, the French Revolution, the American Revolution, the Boston Tea Party. I mean, when Caucasian people, when white people are accosted, when they are oppressed, they pick up guns and they say, hey, you know what, enough is enough. Tell me, Wendell, why is it that people expect black people to just march, sing Kumbaya, and get their neck stepped on? Tell me, why is that?
The conversation that's a big question, but the conversation really is because, and I got to make it specific. The North American, and in this case, the American black person referred to formerly as the American Negro, he has never really been free. He's been emancipated. So you have countries like Haiti that they threw off the chains of their slave masters. You have countries like Trinidad and Tobago, where I come from, or we are a republic. Countries like Jamaica, we run our own countries. But the African American, or the American Negro, he was emancipated, and he was basically stayed in the same state, stayed in the same condition. He never inherited more wealth, and the oppression that put him in chains is the same oppression that now pretends that he is actually free. And so what he must do is he must revolt. And these things that you're seeing now, you're seeing protests because people have witnessed that they truly are not free. They truly are not equal. And and if you tell a man he's not equal long enough, he's going to show you that he is.
That's some insight that you're bringing to our audience. And I went further back in history on the macro scale, and you brought it down to a micro scale and explained it very well. When young people of this generation, and you deal with young people in your line of work as a clergyman, and I deal with young people in terms of training and stuff. When young people see their mothers thrown around, their fathers dying, what other outlet do they have? We can all say, turn the other cheek for just so long. And it becomes a situation now where what outlet do they have? What recourse do they have?
Right. When you don't teach somebody how to legislate their empowerment, all you leave them with is anger. And
Yep.
so with this generation, this millennial generation, that they really haven't lived through any great personal social oppression. And so what you're seeing now is you're seeing anger. You're seeing the outbursts of confusion, of not knowing what to do. They didn't grow up in the civil rights movement. They didn't grow up in affirmative action. They grew up essentially with the social media, with the intellectual ability to get information quickly, but they never really realized that oppression and racism and systematic racism is real. And so they're cutting their teeth now on how to self-express, how to self-determine, and they're going to figure it out just like everybody else figured it out. We've got to let them figure it out, because unfortunately sometimes our voice is too old in their head or too far gone for them to even listen to. This is their moment, and we've got to almost guide them, but we've got to allow them to have their moment.
You know, for young people, we're talking about leadership. And for you and I, that's important, because we had mentors when we were growing up. The older guys taught us the ropes, and we learned certain things. In terms of leadership in the world, America has abrogated their leadership role. Obviously, no one in the world listens to the American president and says, okay, let's follow this, or listen to that. So pretty much what I'm saying is, and my question to you is, who in the world is going to lead us out of this destructive path?
Right. And you know, leadership it doesn't start from the top down, it starts from the bottom up. And you know, our first leaders hopefully are our parents, and hopefully our teachers, and hopefully are even people who are part of our social environment, our cultural environment, pastors, and individuals who have their ear to the street. The problem exists when those people are illiterate as to what the social climate is going on. And you know, I'll use the church first. The church has been very guilty in the current generation, not the generation of Martin, but the current generation, to be very illiterate of what is actually happening on the streets with young people. And so it's hard to now impute leadership now when they don't know who you are. And so leadership must begin at the home. The parents have responsibilities, extreme responsibility to teach their children about history. And then we have systems in schools that must also do the same thing. And unfortunately, sometimes that hasn't happened for black kids. They haven't learned their actual history.
You know what?
Leadership is something now that...
You know what I see also, to piggyback on what you're saying, and maybe you'll disagree or agree, but they don't see the promise that we're telling them is there. They can go to school, get a great degree, and the bank turns them down for a loan. They can get a degree and drive a nice vehicle, and if they live in a nice neighborhood, the police still stops them and pulls them out of their car by their ears. They are not seeing the manifestation of what we're saying. Do the right thing, go to school. You know, those mores and those morals of society that we're putting on these kids and telling them that, hey, if you do this, this will happen. If you do this, this will happen. It's not manifesting in their lives. If you're qualified,
it's become a lie.
It's become a lie. It's become a lie. And so what happens is the young people are not believing it anymore.
Go get a degree and come back and have a great job has become a lie.
It's become a lie. Yeah.
Like when you think about it, 1% in Canada, 1% of the Canadian Canadian corporate Canada, 1% is black. 50% of that black men, 1% is black men. 50% of those black men are homosexual black men. So now if I'm a heterosexual black male, I have the potential to access a demographic that affords me 0.5% of a chance to get there. That's a pretty bad scenario.
It's a bad stat. It's a bad scenario.
Qualified. Yeah, there's no room for me there, essentially. So I got to go make my own businesses. If I'm an honest person, I got to make my own businesses. I might commit crimes, because if I'm not honest, I might have to leave Canada. I might have to go somewhere else. I might have to go back to Africa. But I don't see exactly what you're saying. And then I have a police state system that now victimizes me. So I'm economically victimized potentially, or marginalized, and then I'm potentially I'm targeted by police because of race. and I have to be honest, it's getting better in Toronto. It's definitely getting better in Toronto. Peel Police used to be No Deal Peel.
Yes.
They've hired new officers. They're better. The Toronto Police is definitely a lot better. You know, they're not hiring guys from Owen Sound and Sudbury to come work in Toronto who've never met black people before.
That's right. That's right.
The OPP has a long way to go. They have, that's the force I work for. They still have a very long way to go, but they are promoting black people in positions of power. When I was there, not so much, but now we have great, strong black leaders that are rising up in the OPP. But the other forces, I don't have great information on them, but those three forces definitely are making changes, but it's almost not fast enough.
It is a bit slow, and you know, we're all praying for the best. But you have children, I have children, and mine live in America. So you know, I am more in more prayer than anything else. But I'm also speaking with them about protection of themselves and about how they go about their daily lives. And my father never had to have that talk with me here. You know, I pretty much grew up in a society here where, yeah, there was racism, but you know what? It was benign.
Yeah, I don't agree, because I think the difference between this generation and our generation, Rich, when we grew up, our parents came from the Caribbean and they were trying to have us assimilate. We knew that we're going to be the one or two black kid in the class, and they really wanted us to assimilate. Where these kids are not trying to assimilate. Like you and I were never taught black history in elementary school.
No.
We came with the mindset that we're going to learn to be Canadian.
Yes.
We don't even speak like these kids. Their accents are different.
They are different. Yes.
They want to be black. Remember, Rich, we didn't have black music on our radio station.
No, we did not.
50 Chum.
You're right.
We had to listen to CKLN to get any rap or anything. These kids are inundated with their culture. They have it surrounding all over them. We didn't. So
wow.
What we experienced as being new immigrants to Canada was we experienced systemized a system that really wasn't considering us. So maybe we didn't see it overtly prejudiced against us, that like our parents did. Like I came to Quebec, so they called me the N-word more than my name.
Wow. Wow.
You know, and then I came to Ontario. So
right.
I learned how to.
Wow.
I became a great athlete from running away from white kids. I became strong by learning how to beat up people who were trying to beat me up.
That's right.
So when I showed up as a boy, now 16, 17 years old, boy, I was battle tested. I could fight. I was athletic. I knew how to run, and I knew when to fight. Like that old singer said, you gotta know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk
Kenny
away,
Rogers. Yep, the gambler. Hey,
Yeah.
you know what? That's a great point, Wendell, and I'm glad for that correction and from that perspective from you. You're right, because I remember my dad, when we were at the dinner table, you know, and I'm speaking Patois, the Jamaican dialect, and he says, no, you have to speak proper English. And not knowing down the road, he was trying to get me to survive in this society. But you know, that's a great point. That just brought that back to my mind. Let's change focus a little bit, because this show touches on sports as well. Hey man, when did you pick up a basketball? Tell us a little bit about your basketball journey, because a lot of people, when they heard that you were coming on my show, were interested, because you have a perspective on b-ball rant on the internet and stuff, and you get people all riled up. So when I tell people, and I'm advertising, I tell people Wendell is coming on the program. the myriad of opinions. They want to know, are you going to be live? Should we drive by? Tell me a bit about your basketball journey, bud. When did you first pick up a basketball?
This would have been better live. The way I picked up a basketball is going to blow your mind. You know who? I came to this guy's house, this Trini guy. My mom brought me to his house, and he had all these trophies, these karate trophies and stuff. And I was like, wow, this guy's like some kind of karate guy. And then he had like a bunch of basketballs. He had like 3 nice basketballs in his house. And I held one in my hand. He goes, you own a basketball? I was 7 years old. I said, no, I don't have any basketballs. My mother was poor. She didn't really think about it. She's a woman not really thinking about, I need to give my kid a basketball. She needs to feed me.
Feed you, keep a roof over your head, put clothes on your back, sure.
Yeah, keep a roof over my head. Yeah. Yeah, so I said, no, I don't own a basketball. He goes, boy, how a man like you don't have a basketball? You play ball? I go, yeah, I play ball, but I don't have a ball. And know who that man was?
Who?
That was Corey Joseph's father, David Joseph.
Wow.
He gave me my first basketball.
Wow.
At 7 years old. He gave me my first basketball. That basketball went back to 3847 Lawrence Avenue, and it became the basketball of the hood.
Everybody played with that ball. I know how it is, yeah.
Everybody played with my ball. And I protected my ball. I had my name written out. Because you know back in the day, Rich, you leave your ball out. Your ball's gone.
Oh, your ball's gone, and when you see the guy playing with your ball, you can't say nothing to him. Because it's not your ball anymore.
That's right.
That's right.
And you will fight for your life. You will basketball.
That's right.
And it was an indoor ball. Remember what used to happen? There was no such thing as indoor and outdoor balls.
That's right.
So the indoor ball, when you used it outside, it would become smooth.
Smooth.
Right?
yes.
So you have to know how to handle it.
You better have a handle. That's right.
Outdoor. You have to have handle. You have to have that jump shot. You have to be able to shoot in the sunlight in your eyes.
Wind blowing.
We played wind blowing, and so we were out there playing in the park, and so they'd knock on my door, and especially in the summertime, knocking on your door. As soon as the sun came up, can Wendell come outside to play? They didn't want to play with me. They wanted my basketball.
They wanted
my basketball.
So tell me, tell our audience, tell our audience who don't know about the community center culture here in Toronto back then. Because they have rep now and prep and all that stuff, that we didn't have that back then. It was community centers playing against community centers. Your area's pride was on your shoulders.
Absolutely. So a community center was like a clubhouse. So the dominant basketball players in their area, they played at their own community centers.
That's
now,
right.
when you got tired of busting everybody's face up at your own basketball community center,
that's right,
you would travel to another area.
That's right.
And so you would travel and now challenge that dude in his area.
That's right.
Now that was like a gang fight. Because
yes.
You know, sometimes you go into those places, you can't call foul.
No.
You call foul, that's a fight.
No, there's a fight.
You didn't get fouled, and you be like, respect the call, man. Respect the call. You gotta shoot the ball. But we used to travel to these community centers, and you had to take people with you. You had to take your team with you. Now, if you were nice, but your squad wasn't nice, you're not going to win.
That's right.
So we used to, of course, Swansea, and Galloway, because my mother moved around, we traveled from place to place playing ball, and that was our rep. That was our AAU, and that's how guys got a rep, because you brought your team, and if you beat that team in that community, hey, you got the bragging rights. You can go home and say, yeah, you're on the bus on the TTC talking about how you tore those guys up. That was a great pass. Or you're on the bus talking about, man, you should pass the ball, man. That's why we lost. I'm not playing with you. I'm not taking you nowhere.
People don't understand, Wendell. People don't understand that if you lost a game because your buddy, your best friend, if someone beat him to the basket, you're on that. Your best friend ain't playing with you for the rest of the day or the next day. Because we were salty. Oh yeah. No, tell me something. I ran into you when and I knew of you a little bit before then. But when you came to Oakwood, I was at Oakwood, since 84. Around 84, I got to Oakwood Collegiate Institute down there in Toronto, and then you came up and joined our squad, and we needed you. Lance Wynn was gone. A lot of the guys that I played with for 3 years were gone. Andrew Merritt was gone. So with your addition, we needed your firepower, your length, your ability to compete and play defense, which is what my thing was. Tell me what made you come to Oakwood? What was the catalyst there?
Well, I was in De La Salle Collegiate, and De La Salle, they taught me how to play basketball. Big up to Mr. Hardy and Ted Galka. They taught me the nuances of the game. Mm-hmm. But De La Salle had a 10-game schedule. Our season was over before your season even began.
Yeah, we had exhibition games, 10 games in.
Yeah. I was one of the best players in my mind. I was one of the best players in the city. In fact, you couldn't tell me I wasn't the best.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't tell me I wasn't the best player in the city. I averaged about 45 points a game for De La Salle. And so now I spoke to a guy, and you know him. Went to Leacock, Dennis Smith.
Yes.
I said, Dennis, man, I need to get out of this place, man. I need to get out of these little Catholic school scenarios, man. I need to get him. I used to watch Jarvis. I used to watch you, watch Andrew and Darren, and Rochelin,
Rochelin.
and these guys playing in the Jarvis tournament. And I'll be like, man, that's my platform, man. I need to be there. And so Dennis Smith was like, okay, so you need to get out of that school. I said, okay, Dennis, I'm going to go to Runnymede. And he's like, don't go to Runnymede. I was like, why? He goes, you're not Runnymede material. I was like, what do you mean I'm not Runnymede? He goes, man, you need to go to Oakwood, bro. You're an Oakwood guy. Go play with Stewart in Oakwood. I go, who's that? He goes, Stewart's one of the best guys in the city. I go, is he better than me? He goes, he's pretty good. I said, okay. Dennis Smith is the only reason I went to Oakwood Collegiate.
And we were just thrilled. We were just thrilled to see you come through the doors, man. I mean, it was amazing to have a big guy to play with because I was playing center all the time, forward, 3, 2. So I was glad to have you.
Until I got to Oakwood. I never played center until I got to Oakwood in my life.
You know what? That's funny you said that.
Center.
Yeah, I just funny you said that because you handled the ball well. You know, but everything went through me at that time, and I knew you needed some room, and I'm glad that I left. I was there before you were done because I knew you needed some room to operate on your own. And
the thing. Can I tell your fans about you? The thing about Richard Stewart, right? When I got to Oakwood, Richard Stewart was able to handle the moment, and that's what I was so impressed about you. The moment never shook you. You were never, and that's what, like, because remember, high school basketball in the '80s was like NCAA basketball. It was big. Richard, we had hundreds of people watching us play basketball. Hundreds of people. If the place was bigger, it would have been more.
Yes.
So you were able to handle those moments. I remember, I mean, you were not a super athlete, but you could become a super athlete if you needed it.
If I needed to be.
That's what impressed me. It was like, you could jump as high as you needed to jump. You could shoot as far as you needed to shoot because you were able to rise to every moment. And that's what you taught me when I got to Oakland. I was like, okay, this guy's a true star. And I remember that year, it went from Richard Stewart to King Richard.
King Richard. The Toronto Sun dubbed me King Richard. And I was like, man, and those things don't, to me, you know, for my own self, those are the things, but boy, I love the game, man. And we had so many good times at lunchtime basketball and in practice. I mean, those were great times. And, you know, the thing that I was interested in hearing about, you know, from my perspective, was your time in university. I mean, how did you like playing down south? What was that like to play NCAA Division I basketball?
Well, I would say my university experience for basketball started in high school because when you left, I went to, you went to it too. I went to Metro Index.
Yes.
And at Metro Index, I was the MVP of Metro Index.
Nice.
And so Street and Smith called me the sleeper player of the year in Street and Smith magazine. So when the schools who didn't actually see me, they were coming to Oakwood every day to the point that we had to have 2 practices a day just so that these schools who never saw me could see me play. And so every single day a different university came and, you know, I had to play. I was basically trying out for every school that came. And so when I finally decided to go, again, Andrew Merritt, I'm not happy with you because you forced me to take the first school that came through the door. But when Fairleigh Dickinson picked me up and said, you know, we want you, and did all the recruitment that blew our minds away. You know how it was.
Yes.
They take you down there and they blow your mind, treat you like gold.
The dog and pony show. Yep.
Yep. And I got down there and thought again, I'm going to be one of the best basketball players here. I've always been one of the best basketball players on any team. And then you get there and you realize, wait a minute, these bros can play. They
can play down there. Yeah, they can jump high, they can run fast. And the nuance of the game, the intelligence of the game is where you differentiate yourself. So you played there, and I was just happy to see that you did well. You came back. I know you were with the border services at the airport. I know that you became an OPP officer. The important thing, and one of the things that I am blown away and impressed with, is that you're a bishop. You're an actual bishop. You are a man who leads the flock. You are a man who's a believer in God and a spiritual man. And I've been to your church. I listen to your stuff. And you don't parse the word of God. You don't come up with opinions. You don't come up with side stuff. If you say something, I go to the verses and I read it and I say, okay, yeah. So so just to let you know, I'm not a man who follows cults of personalities, but I'm a man that can read the Bible on his own. And if I don't know something, I say I don't know. Tell me, man, how did the calling come to you? I am so impressed with that. How did the calling come to you? Because I'm on a journey now, and I need guidance. But how did the calling come to you? I would like to thank our sponsor.
No sugary snacks! No sugary snacks! No sugary snacks! No sugary snacks!
Well, Rich, I was one of the most ignorant, cussingest, swearingest, drinkingest Negroes that Lord ever put on the earth prior to. This was not a scenario that, where I grew into it. It was a calling. It was really a calling. I had a life-changing moment, where God really rescued me out of something. And I said in this moment, I heard his voice. Like I said, cussingest, swearingest, fightingest, arguingest person you ever had. Like, I'm an alpha male, and so in this moment of extreme personal crisis, I heard his voice, and I said, God, if that's really you talking to me, if that's really you, and you get me out of this situation, Lord, I'm going to serve you the rest of my life. And God really used that moment to see who I was. And I'm a loyal person. I'm going to stick with my team. I'm a team guy.
Yeah.
And so when I got a teammate, because Rich, I remember when you dunked on those West Hill twins, and I said, boy, sometimes I don't like Stewart, but I remember I reached over and kissed you on the cheek. I said, man, he's my teammate, man. And so when God rescued me out of that, I said, man,
we're in some battles together.
God,
We're in some battles together.
We're in some real battles, Rich. Shoot, we only lost 2 games our whole life together, but God rescued me, Rich.
Yes.
And when he rescued me, I promised to serve him, and he gave me the gift of understanding his word. And he gave me a platform to speak his word, and I've just tried to be obedient to the promise that I made to him when he took care of me and saved me. And he's done that. He continues to do that. I have incredible favor. My children are all well. And God has just kept me all of these years through my own personal tribulation. It hasn't been easy.
No,
I have to always look and say, God, no matter what I've gone through, always been there, and I've always landed on my feet.
And I love that. I love that
transformation.
I love that message that you're saying right now, because I try to explain to people that even though you become a believer and you follow his principles and his precepts and his commandments, it doesn't exempt you from pain. It doesn't exempt you from suffering. What it does is it makes you realize that he's there for you through these things, and it'll make your life a lot easier as you're going through these trials and tribulations. And I know, and I go through things, and I've gone through things, and with my walk with him, he's given me favor, man, and he's blessed me, and I'm just glad for you and your children and your children's mom and everybody, and I'm just praying that God continues to keep you, keep them. Keep a hedge around them so they're protected during these hard times. I just want to thank you today for coming on to the show, and God bless you, man. And I just wish the best for you, Wendell Brereton, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much.
God bless you. God bless you. Power to the people. The revolution is being televised. God bless you, man.
Thank you. And that was Wendell Brereton, Bishop Wendell Brereton. Now, just a guy who is in the city who helps people now. Has a flock of his own to take care of, a mandate from God. We talked about history, we talked about politics, we talked about current events, and I'm just thankful to have him on the show. Hopefully you learned something, the history of Toronto basketball, along with that, and you know what we see on this program, little things turn into big things. God bless you.